Alright, I want to briefly talk about a topic that keeps coming up in comments and conversations online over and over again that I think is interesting, but also kind of weird. And it is something I like to call the filmmaker gatekeeping dilemma, which is this whole conversation about labels in the creative world. I'm not sure how many of you have been paying attention to this, but over the past few years in the creative space on socials, there has been this discussion about real filmmakers versus YouTubers and online content creators. And it is not something that I usually get into with people because in my mind, it has never been that important. But the more I see it, the more I realize a lot of people out there seem to really care about it for some reason. Now, the shortest possible way that I can explain my thoughts about it is pointless and kind of ridiculous. But this video isn't me trying to start a fight or to insult anyone. I'm making it because I want to get an honest, civil conversation going about why this actually happens. Like, genuinely, if you're someone who's ever brought up the idea of real filmmakers versus just YouTubers, why is that? Why does it bother you as much as it does? Nowadays, when someone asks me what I do for work, I'll typically say that I'm a filmmaker and video editor, but for some time now, I've started adding on that I'm also a YouTuber. And the reason I lead with filmmaker is because I've always felt like that kind of covers most of the stuff that I do for client work, even though, if I'm being totally honest, a lot of my creative effort for a while now has been pretty much going into just the stuff that I do for YouTube. If I lead by saying that I'm a YouTuber, the natural response from most people is, oh, cool, what sort of videos do you make? So in that way, saying that I'm a filmmaker and video editor first already kind of answers that question. But the truth is, I have never really been attached to any sort of label at all. And that's why earlier I said that I don't get into arguments with people over it and why I don't think it's important. Honestly, there have been so many times where someone will refer to me with a label or a role that isn't necessarily what I do most, but for whatever reason, it's never bothered me. I've always just kind of been like, who gives a shit? People look at me holding a camera and go, oh, you're the photographer, even though my camera's on a gimbal and it has like a microphone on it. And instead of foaming at the mouth and going, actually, you uncultured simpleton, I just go, no, sorry, I'm the video guy, but the photographer's over there. And getting that information out there takes me so little time. And I guess that's kind of why I always find it so weird when I come across a person who seems to put so much more emphasis on the label that they've given themselves and making sure that others are fully aware of it than they do on the work that they're actually doing. Let me try and explain it this way. Whenever I'm watching something, doesn't matter where, could be at a cinema, could be on TV, could be on YouTube, I absolutely never think about how the person or the people who made that thing would label themselves. Obviously, you've got their roles listed in the credits, but that is not what I'm talking about here. What matters to me is if the thing I'm watching actually impacts me in some way. Does it make me feel something? Does it teach me something? Does it provide any value to me as the viewer? And the thing is, none of the answers to those questions are tied to the person's label. And I find it really weird when I go to watch a YouTube video about a filmmaking or a video editing topic that is clearly very well researched and very well put together, and then I go in the comments and see someone going, this kid makes really good videos. It's just a shame that they're not a real filmmaker, they're just a YouTuber. Why? What does that achieve? If you found the video that you're watching good, what is the point of that tail end of the comment? Let's assume for a second that the person who made that video sees the comment and goes, you know what, random internet person? You're right, I'm not a real filmmaker. What then? What changes for you? The way I see it, nothing changes. All a comment like that does is it tries to tear down a random person on the internet sharing something that they've created for absolutely no reason. No one benefits from a comment like that being out there. Now, let's say that you're someone who has 25 years of experience in feature filmmaking and you come across a YouTube filmmaker sharing something that they think is useful, that might be a little bit incorrect or misleading. If you choose to drop a comment and share what your experience has taught you and why you might think that there's a better or just a different way to do something, that is totally different. That is constructive. That can end up helping the person making the video who might have just gotten started, and maybe it is something that they pay attention to and they take with them down the line. So when that is an option, it makes it even weirder to me that there are people who choose the other path of just trying to make someone feel less than for literally no conceivable reason. It's also not like a random person on the internet saying that they're a filmmaker suddenly devalues you as a real filmmaker. Take me for example. I am perfectly fine with people calling me a goofy YouTuber, even though I would introduce myself as a filmmaker. But when someone goes, "This is George, he's a YouTuber, filmmaker, video editor guy," I don't get all riled up and jump to try and correct them, because I don't feel like the value of my work is in any way tied to the word that someone uses to describe me. I am so much more interested in how the stuff that I'm making can benefit whoever it lands in front of. So I don't get why it is such a big deal to make the distinction between real filmmakers and YouTube filmmakers, because I genuinely don't think that the existence of one threatens the existence of the other. "Oh, but George, YouTube filmmakers don't have the necessary experience to talk about this stuff. They don't have the experience that I do. They haven't made real movies that have ended up on the big screen. They have never been on a big movie set." Okay, but does that actually matter? And before you answer, let me give you a hypothetical. Let's say that you watch an interview with a world-famous cinematographer talking about a set of lenses that they really like and why they chose those lenses to use on a big-budget production coming to a cinema near you this summer. And then you see a video from a stinky YouTube filmmaker talking about that same set of lenses, saying that they like them for pretty much the same exact reasons, but they just managed to rent them for a few days to shoot a short film they're going to be releasing on their channel next week. If the reasons for picking those lenses are the exact same, but the projects they were used on were on totally different scales, does that somehow invalidate the opinion of the YouTube filmmaker and make the opinion of the big-time DP any more valid? Because, and this is obviously just my opinion, I don't think it does. Because remember, both people are essentially saying the same thing. And that translates to a bunch of other topics as well. What if the big famous DP is talking about why they decided to approach lighting a specific big movie scene in a certain way, and then you also come across a YouTuber also showing a similar lighting setup, and they say that they went with it for the same reasons? If the info is objectively good, why are we so focused on where it's coming from? Maybe I'm misunderstanding something, but I genuinely can't seem to understand why there is a camp of people out there who preach that the only people who are able to share genuinely valuable information and are the only ones worth listening to are the people at the very top of the creative ladder. There are so many YouTube creators out there who, as far as I know, have never made a movie, have never been on a multi-million-dollar production set, yet they give some really great advice that is practical and actionable, and they back it up with some very good explanations and examples. There's also a bunch of YouTubers who make some really amazing videos, and dare I say it, films that have had me so much more engaged than huge, wildly anticipated movies. So I think this person is on YouTube so they can't possibly be good enough for bigger productions thing is a bit ridiculous in the first place. I don't think that the medium someone chooses to share their work has much to do with how good they are or their value as a creator. See, at some point, I think we started worrying so much about the semantics of who calls themselves what, and we lost the plot and started forgetting what is actually important, which is what is being created and what effect it has on someone out there. This video isn't meant to defend YouTube filmmakers and tell you that they're somehow better. It's not meant to tell you that real filmmakers are better. The point is, none of that actually matters in the grand scheme of things. Sure, you can have your preferred label that you present yourself with. You can have the role that you're listed under in the credits of whatever project you work on. That is absolutely fine. But I do think it's a little weird to let a simple word become such a key part of your personality, such a key part of your identity, that you start feeling threatened when another person who might not have as much experience as you decides they also identify with that word. And it really becomes a problem when that leads to you being hostile towards some random person over it, trying to tear them down, trying to put them in their place, instead of choosing to be a little bit more understanding and trying to maybe lend a helping hand. Now, I obviously don't think that I'm gonna solve this. There is always gonna be traditional filmmakers stuck in their ways who look down on YouTube filmmakers. There is always gonna be YouTube filmmakers who think they know better than the old guys. This conversation is gonna keep on going online, and I'm gonna go right back to not caring about it much. But still, I do kind of hope that if a person from either end of this argument came across this video, it gives you something to think about. And maybe it helps you realize that you can keep doing your own thing, and someone else doing their thing doesn't necessarily have to be an issue for anyone unless you choose to turn it into one. And I'm pretty sure that most of us have much more important things that we could be doing with our time instead of worrying about stupid shit like this. So maybe do me a favor and don't worry about it. Let it go.